For all your TCG needs, make sure to check out alphatradingcardgames.com.
What's poppin', everybody? It's the Sabrofiner4. Today I'm going to be talking about Elden Ring. This is going to be mostly a rant, but you could say it's a review because I'm going to be talking about the whole game. I have around 200 hours in this game so far. It is objectively the biggest and the most impressive game I've ever played. I have other games that are bigger favorites of mine, like Pokemon Emerald and Castlevania games and stuff, but if we're being objective, this is most definitely the biggest, most impressive, and most demanding game I've ever seen. Like, how this is a PlayStation 4 game is beyond me. I just can't believe it. Now, I've heard some people say that this game is overrated, and I highly disagree with that. There's a few things that it does, and it's to its benefit, but it also brings some drawbacks, especially if you compare it with something like Bloodborne, which I'm going to do in this video. But I would never think of this game as overrated, even if there's a lot of aspects you don't like about it. To say that such a huge and impressive game is overrated, I think is really just not being objective at all. And the reason that I say this is because this game isn't just big in the sense that, you know, the Ubisoft games, the open world Ubisoft games where they just copy paste the areas over and over, they copy paste the quests over and over, and then it's a huge ass game, but it's just a copy paste of a game. This is actually a well designed, like each area, the enemy placement, the items, all of the different like dungeon stages, like all of the castles you can visit, besides the open world fields and areas. It truly is so impressive. This is the only game I've played in my life where it kills your spirit in the sense that it's so big. Like you wanna feel like you're finishing this game, you're covering this game, and you're being done with areas, and you think to yourself, okay, we're getting there. But it's almost like it never ends. This is how huge this game is. Like, I have 200 hours. It's not like I just walk around and kill enemies to get runes and stuff. Like, I'm trying to explore every area, just uncover everything, do all of the stages, visit all the castles, all the dungeons and stuff. Just trying to do everything. And it just almost feels like it doesn't end. There's always something. The map just keeps going. You think, okay, this is the end of the map. It just keeps going. Get some of the basics out of the way. Graphics wise, this game looks great. I would imagine if it looks as good as it does on the PlayStation 4, it's gonna look even better on the PS5, I would imagine. Same for frame rate. It runs really nicely. I don't know if it's standard 30 FPS or anything above that, but it runs fine on PlayStation 4 when I play it. I don't have any problems. So it should run even better on the PlayStation 5. I was really happy with how the graphics looked in Bloodborne. That's a 2015 game on the PlayStation 4 exclusive. So probably this game, I would say, looks even better than that. You look at some of the things like the sea, the sunsets in the sky, some little things like that. I mean, it's a much newer game, 7 years, crazily enough. So I'd say it's ahead of that. So if you were happy with a game like Bloodborne, you should feel perfectly fine with this one as well on the PlayStation 4. In terms of music, comparing this to Bloodborne, once again, Bloodborne was a mostly quiet game. There was only music in some very specific areas, and then in all of the major bosses you had music, of course. This is slightly different in that there's always some sort of ambient background music that's playing. That's always very fitting on the areas you are, whether it's a cave slash dungeon or when you're in the open fields and valleys, you know, the open world areas of the game. So, I mean, it didn't really bother me the way Bloodborne was, and it doesn't bother me with this one too. Nice background music. And then in terms of sound effects and voice acting, as you would expect, it's some really good stuff. Another thing that I want to mention in terms of game basics that's also extremely impressive, it just boggles my mind. This game is so huge, and I did not encounter a single bug in it. I can't remember a single time I've had this game bug out or some sort of glitch. Even Bloodborne, I can recall that game. There was an area in like the forest, the Bergenwood forest, with the tree dudes, the snakeheads. where I got stuck in a glitch and then I couldn't move away, and I had to use like the item to get back into a lamp. But this game, it's incredibly impressive. It's so huge, and I didn't encounter any bug. Maybe other people know about bugs and glitches in this game that I don't, but it just goes to show you once again. I mean, normally a game this huge would have bugs and wouldn't be perfect, but no, I mean, they nailed it out of the park, at least from my experience. So that's fantastic. I think I heard that you do get some bugs in PC versions of the game, but I wouldn't know. I played this on the PlayStation, and it's really impressive once again. Such a huge ass game, and not having this problem. Now, getting into the unique nature of this game, this is a From Software game, as you would expect. Things like when you die, you lose your runes, you can go get them back, and if you lose again, you lose all of your money basically. Some of these standard gameplay aspects. A lot of the enemies you would expect, like dogs, big dudes, swift dudes and stuff. These sort of aspects are mimicked in Bloodborne and the other From Software games. Same with the story. You don't get any straightforward story in this game. You kind of have to figure everything out on your own. And I'd say it's even more loose and confusing than Bloodborne. Bloodborne, you can sort of piece a few things out, and even though I still don't know the exact story of that game, you kind of have a gist of it. This one, I still don't know what the hell's going on. You learn a few things about the clans and people that are against each other, sort of thing. But it's a confusing ass story, and I really don't want to focus on it. It's just something that moves the game along, and then you figure things out. Gameplay, this is the main thing that I want to touch upon. So, open world game, extremely impressive. I've said this a billion times, and the super cool thing about this game is that I heard somebody say this before, and it's perfectly true. Nearly the entire game, like 70%, 80% of this game, it's almost like it's optional. It's like you're thrown into this open world, and you can go whatever you can, go whatever you want, and just tackle the different areas at your own pace. Obviously, some areas are going to be harder than others, much harder than others, in fact, and the game sort of tells you you're probably a bit too early to come here. But I mean, if you can tackle that area, you usually get some good shit. This was also kind of true in Bloodborne as well, especially when you have the DLC from the start of the game too. There's always a few optional areas you can go to, and you have the freedom to tackle the areas how you like, but that's a more structured game. Like, there's a specific pattern you have to follow at the end of the day. Like, at the end of the day, if you want to progress in Bloodborne, you have to follow the story-specific stages. You can't just avoid them. But for Elden Ring, that doesn't really apply. I mean, of course, it has a bunch of different endings you can get, like Bloodborne, and I would imagine the other Dark Souls games and stuff. The endings you get depend on the characters and the quests that you do, some specific key characters. I haven't beaten the game, and I'm not even like trying to get any specific ending. I'm just doing all of the quests, doing all of the stuff. I think the most complete quest that I've done in terms of the key quests to get the endings is with Ronnie. It just kind of happened that way. I think I've done everything you can do with Ronnie, besides doing the last thing to beat the game and getting her ending. But I'm not too worried about that right now. And when you consider like all of the different endings and the size of this game, I mean, unless you're gonna do some speedruns and rush through the game to get all of the endings and all the trophies, if you wanted like complete playthroughs and get all the endings, I mean, you're looking at thousands of hours minimum. I mean, and that's not even an exaggeration. This is most definitely the biggest game I've ever played. Now, it would be disingenuous of me not to mention the negative side of that, because there is a negative side to this game being so big and just so loose that it doesn't really have any sort of structure, any path to follow for the story. You just sort of do your own thing and figure things out if you don't want to Google things. Is that it's so big that I don't see myself coming back to this game when I beat it. Who knows how many years are gonna let pass before I revisit this game. It's not like Bloodborne when you sort of have that sort of structure and then you figure things out and then you know, okay, I do this, I go here, I just tackle this area, follow these patterns, and I'm done with the playthrough in an effective manner. To the point that because I've played Bloodborne so many times, I've had like 10 to 11 playthroughs so far in that game. You come to a point where you gain a mastery for that game, and you can memorize and know everything inside and out. Maybe you're not going to remember everything in the chalice dungeons and stuff, obviously, but in terms of the main game and the DLC, I pretty much have everything memorized inside and out. Like, if I have a Bloodborne playthrough, I know where all the stuff is, like all of the items. I'm not going to miss anything, I'm not going to forget anything. I know the enemy placement, and you sort of learn and master the game by heart, you could say. This game, impossible. There's no way I'm ever gonna remember everything in this game inside and out. And like I said, this game, it just kills your spirit in terms of how big it is. Like, I couldn't imagine beating this game, building a character, beating this game, doing everything, and then starting another playthrough from scratch and wanting to do everything once again in this game. Like, unless you're gonna wanna skip and skim through the game to get the endings and stuff, like, you would burn out trying to complete this game 100% every single time. Another negative to mention in terms of the size of this game is that if you're the type of player that does want to get through the game quick and you just want to focus on the story and not do all of these side quests and stuff, you're gonna have to be googling shit up. I don't know how anybody that doesn't know this game, like wasn't part of the development or something, can figure out the exact areas and stages to follow to beat the story and get an ending in the game. You would have to Google that shit up. And sometimes it is a bit of annoying, and you are gonna appreciate the structure and linearity of something like Bloodborne. I guess it shouldn't be surprising. As they say, you know, too much of anything isn't good, and it's true for this game as well. It's great that it's so open world, but sometimes a little bit of structure and linearity is the best thing too. Which is why, if I gotta be honest, the open world game is awesome, and there's a lot of areas that are impressive to sort of explore, and you have a good time doing so. But if I had to really pick what my favorite part of the game was, is actually the dungeons and the structured areas, I guess, like the castles, the Academy of Rare Lucaria. That was a pretty cool stage as well, but I mean, you can consider it like a castle stage as well. Some underground areas were pretty cool, which is another thing. God damn, I mean, the map is so impressive, like the standard map you would see, like all of the areas and stages in that, and it's not even the whole thing. There's like an underground map too, which is big as well. A bunch of stages you can do over there too that are really nice. I cannot emphasize enough how huge this game is, and huge in terms of content, not filler. I mean, if I'm being honest, there is a lot of filler in this game too, but they couldn't really avoid it, if I want to be honest. Like, for example, if you have a game this huge and you only had the weapons that Bloodborne had, like a couple of weapons, then it would have looked kind of lame. But on the flip side, it does have so many different weapons, and a lot of weapons are kind of, you know, what's the point of even them being there? Filler weapons, you could say. In terms of arrows and stuff, like, you have so many options from the different arrows you can shoot, and yeah, it's just a lot of variety in terms of gameplay and style. You can fight, a lot of weapons, a lot of items, just a lot of shit cramped into this game that you probably wouldn't even utilize 50% of them, if I'm being honest, especially if you get used to a style and a weapon like me. I pretty much only used maybe 3 weapons. I gotta be honest, and 4, I guess, if you want to throw in like the glintstone staffs that you're gonna use. I use the meteorite staff all the time at this point. Used the astrologer one in the beginning because I had that. I started with the astrologer class, but then once you get the meteorite staff, I haven't used anything else since. I know that there's supposed to be some better staffs, but I haven't acquired any of them just yet, and it's crazy. I've explored this whole game, and it just seems like there's still so much stuff to unlock. It's insanity. Obviously, there's also shitloads of characters and quests you can make. I think I touched upon that already. But in terms of, I guess, the characters, there's a few cool ones, and I like their dialogues and stuff. But I don't know, I think I would say Bloodborne, maybe it's the style, the aesthetic, the sort of Castlevania atmosphere, the hunter, monster hunter sort of theme of it. I prefer that better. I mean, I think I'd say my favorite characters would still be from that game. But I mean, it also has the same sort of feeling that everything is gonna go wrong at the end. All of the characters you talk to, almost all of them die. The quest ends in them dying, sort of thing. But that's a From Software, I guess, Miyazaki thing. Shitload of bosses in this game too, but I mean, I think, once again, if I have to put my finger on it, I'd say Bloodborne's bosses are more impressive and more memorable. I mean, I gotta be honest with that. Maybe it's because when you play a boss in Bloodborne, like an actual main boss, I mean, it's kind of a big deal. In this game, there's so many areas and so many optional areas, basically, and the bosses over there too. Like, either they're not as big or impressive or scary, I guess, in terms of their design, or there's just so many of them you're gonna forget about them. A number of them you won't forget, and they're gonna stand out, but I'd say in terms of bosses, even though you don't get as many as in Bloodborne as in this game, I mean, Bloodborne wins in that regard. And touching on the weapons again, once again, comparing this with Bloodborne, the gameplay and the fighting in Bloodborne had a lot more tightness to it. I don't really know how to explain it. There's fewer weapons in Bloodborne, but every weapon, well, nearly every weapon, is very unique in its moveset and its effectiveness and stuff. And when you acquire a weapon and something in Bloodborne, it's kind of a big deal. Not so much the same in Elden Ring. There's a shitload of weapons, even special weapons too, not just the regular ass weapons. But I guess if you're gonna be on one end of the extreme, you're better off having a lot of variety, even if not everyone uses the weapons, instead of just lacking in a variety of special weapons. So that's good, but to be honest, I would say that I prefer, like, I haven't found a weapon that really fits my style in this game as in Bloodborne. Like, my weapons in that game, if I'm going for a skill build, is things like the Rakuyo, Blade of Mercy, and I guess in this game I use the claws, the closest thing to Blade of Mercy, I guess. I've done every single build you can possibly imagine in Bloodborne, even arcane and blood-tinged builds. Elden Ring though, I don't know, like, if I would make a strength build or something, or just a different type of build, if I was gonna enjoy the weapons in this game as much as Bloodborne, I guess I'd have to try it first. I can't speak on it without trying it. In terms of atmosphere, you know what the cool thing about this game is that it has the whole damn package. I mean, it's not supposed to be like some sort of survival horror game, or even in the theme of Bloodborne, you know, Lovecraftian, Castlevania-like horror type of a game with monsters of the night and, you know, grotesque creatures and shit. But I mean, a lot of the stages, like the castle stages, the shaded castle, you know, Stormvale Castle, and a lot of special areas like that in this game are going to give you that sort of horror element in terms of the music, the enemy placement, enemies that are going to surprise you. So most definitely, it can feel like a Bloodborne horror game and a Castlevania game. It just has the whole package, like I've said. The open world areas cover everything as well, from meadows to wasteland to like lake areas with forests, just everything, the whole damn package. I know this game had, I think, around 5 years of development, but even still, I still can't believe they crammed all of this in this game. It's crazy. All the different spells and incantations you can use. My god, fighting on the horse too. There's that gameplay aspect if you're into that. So many different things. So I guess to put a conclusion in this video, this game is most definitely not overrated. I haven't checked if it got Game of the Year, but if they don't give it Game of the Year, then it's totally unfair. I've heard that the new God of War Ragnarok is very impressive as well, but I guess I can't really say if I haven't played that game. But if I was to make a bet, I just don't think it would be as big or have as much content as this game. I mean, unless they thought, hey, yeah, we really need to top Elden Ring with God of War when they were making that. But this game has really set a new standard and a new level in terms of open world games and AAA games. Like, seriously, even if you had to pay like $100 to get this game, you're getting your money's worth. This is how big this game is. It's like it's freaking 3 AAA games in one. It's crazy. Bloodborne was an extremely big game that I was very impressed with when I played. Still one of my favorite games. Extremely big, especially if you factor in the DLC and the Chalice Dungeons too. And it almost looks like it's a small game compared to Elden Ring. It's crazy. It's crazy how big this game is. And not just filler, like I've said, copy-pasted areas. We're talking actually thought of, designed areas, even if they were procedurally generated. This game doesn't feel like it's a copy-paste ass game. Now, like I've said before, once I'm done with this game, I don't think I'm going to be revisiting it anytime soon. It's just too big, it kills your spirit. Trying to just make this game complete, getting everything, and then going New Game Plus only to start doing everything again from scratch. Yeah, I don't know about it. I'd have to take a break from it for like 5 years or something before I come back. But who knows, maybe it'll become like Bloodborne for me, and then I'll play it over and over, regardless of how big it is. Alright guys, this is my review slash rant, my thoughts on the amazing Elden Ring game. Definitely a game of the decade, you could say, like Bloodborne. Extremely impressive. I'm glad it sold so much because it really deserves it, and I still want a Bloodborne 2 or like a Bloodborne prequel. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of themes and aspects of Bloodborne that I still think are better than this game. Maybe it's the Castlevania player in me, who knows? But I mean, this game was definitely incredibly impressive, and I'm glad I gave it a chance because I did have my doubts. Not that it was going to be a bad game, but because I haven't played any of the Dark Souls games. I did start with Bloodborne because I wanted another 3D Castlevania kind of a game that I just felt was going to be good and I was going to enjoy it. And I was really just looking forward to another Bloodborne from Software. And I thought, hey, you know, Elden Ring is not going to be quite like Bloodborne. Am I really going to enjoy this as Bloodborne? Or am I going to regret it because it's not going to have exactly the same gameplay aspects? But in the end, I did get used to it. And it is an amazing game. Had a great time with it. And I guess another thing to mention before I forget, in terms of difficulty, if you really just think you're going to dig this game but are afraid it's going to be too difficult, the good thing about this game especially, I mean, I guess you could say this for Bloodborne too, but even more relevant for this game is that you can actually just farm around for items and stuff and just try to kill little guys, grind for money, level up your character, buy more items to use and shit like that. I mean, you're still gonna have to learn how to play the game well to some extent. But even if you suck, there's still things you can do to make the game easier for yourself. It's not like it's impossible for anyone that's not a hardcore player. So that's what I gotta say about that. Anyways guys, hope you enjoyed this video. This has been SaberWolf94. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share this with your friends, and I'll see you guys next time. What up?